Hey, everybody, welcome to Real Talk. I am your host, Paul Britton. With me this week, we got this guy over here. You may recognize him as Sergio Barrera. Also, you may recognize him as Sergio or the godfather of the pod. Whatever you know him as, he's back and we're happy.
I feel like I keep making appearances and maybe I should just come back every week because
I'm not saying no.
No, it's always great to be here, Paul. Thank you.
It's awesome to have you. Before we dive in, I didn't prep you for this, and I'm spraying this on you last second. How many of the Academy Award nominated films have you seen, and do you care at all?
2 out of 10.
Okay, good.
Right. 2 out of 10. And it isn't that I didn't care. It's as you know, last year was not a movie going year for me.
Yeah.
And so of the 10, the ones I have seen are Dune 2.
Okay.
And oh gosh, what is the other one?
Pretty sure we did Dune 2. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we did. We definitely did Dune 2. And okay, run them off for me. I'll
my
stop.
God, I'm terrible. Don't I deserve that? It's Anora, The Brutalist, Complete Unknown, Conclave. You've seen
Conclave. That's the one.
Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here. Nickel Boys, The Substance.
Yeah, only Conclave and Dune part 2. I was going to say
totally did Conclave. I know you're rooting for Conclave. I won't even.
I am. But see, that's not even fair on my part because I can't compare it to. Yeah, I mean,
it's fine. It's fine.
And as much as I would love to see something like a Dune 2 get it, I know better than
it's not going to happen.
I just hope there's some acting awards coming out of Conclave, at least one.
It's not getting that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Oddly enough, its most likely possibility is in screenplay.
Screenplay,
weird,
yeah.
But that's fine. All right. Hey, we're here to talk about movies that are coming out now rather than movies that have come out a long time ago.
Right.
So let's look. I remember one of my longest living memories of doing these with you, Sergio, was your stated excitement at the time when Endgame came out, because it was like, all right, I don't have to go see. I can die now because I don't have to go see Marvel movies anymore. And then like you were annoyed because they kept coming out,
right?
And honestly, like if you were like literally waiting to like if you're like some kind of weird alternate universe being that like it considers being stuck on Earth as a horrible trap and want to free your energy into the greater universe or something, and the only thing keeping you pinned to the Earth was that as long as there's a Marvel movie that's released during that year, you have to stay pinned to Earth. I feel bad for you,
right? Yeah.
Because 2020 through 2023 were pretty bad. 2024, at least you got Deadpool and Wolverine, but like,
I mean, yeah, and it's funny because Nick Kramer and I went to go see the movie we're going to talk about today, this past Saturday, and I literally walking out of the theater, I said, "Do you remember back in 2020? Because we've been coworkers for so long and best friends for so many years."
Yeah,
I said, "Do you remember how in 2019 I was saying I just need to stay alive until 2020 when we get to Endgame?" And now it's 2025. I spent the last year getting healthier, and the movies still aren't getting better. So
I know. I was just going to say, and the irony of it all is that you're getting healthier, so now you are more likely to have to come. I'm going to have to drag you on here to be doing these things after Robert Downey Jr. is actually done doing Marvel movies, rather than
right, yeah. I mean,
hey,
things to look forward to, right?
Things to look forward to are things like Captain America: Brave New World conversation.
Yeah.
Segue, nailed it. All right,
beautiful.
So, Sergio, we have a new Marvel movie to talk about. It's called Captain America: Brave New World. Let's just start with stupid things like it made $80 million, which is the second highest grossing Captain America movie.
Yeah.
Shocking.
I am surprised given the population of the theater I was in, and also the way ticket sales were looking as I was trying to figure out which showing I was going to go to. It wasn't. I was actually surprised by the numbers, and I mean pleasantly surprised.
Sure, but like, hey, look, Marvel movies. no matter how poorly they're trending, can still make $80 million, which in today's environment is like, oh, really good. Now, if it was like 2020 without a pandemic, and it was the first movie that came after Endgame, they would be like, holy shit, what happened? Why did this only? But like now it's kind of like, hey, $80 million, pretty good.
Yeah.
So that's the boring stuff. The interesting stuff is that this movie, hinted at already, not very well liked by critics.
Right.
And getting bad reviews from critics. That doesn't necessarily translate into what people are looking for, though.
Right.
And so let's not bury the lead here. What'd you think?
On on its face, the reason I was looking forward to this film is I love Anthony Mackie as an actor. I mean, he's done so much great work in so many different genres.
Yeah.
And I loved what was it? Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
That's one of the few series that has come out of Disney that Marvel wise that I've enjoyed.
Oh wow! Okay,
because those are two characters that, for me, since they were introduced, have always been a couple of my favorites.
Yeah,
and so I really wanted to see, okay, how is Anthony Mackie going to stand up to this? Carrying the lead in this film, because I even thought, I hate to even admit that I thought this, but I was like, are people going to be concerned about it's not Chris Evans, it's Captain, but that's the whole thing. There's never been any sort of secret made of the fact that this is his to take over and his to, not just in the movie, but as the actor.
Yep.
And I think he held up. I mean, the character that he's become and that he's made Captain America into, of course, based on the comic books and stories and so forth. Credit to Anthony Mackie for making this a really, really interesting portrayal and working well with what he was given, because this wasn't the strongest script in terms of how, the story itself went and the dialogue and such. Very, very cliche in so many ways, but I mean, it's an action film, right?
So yeah,
all that to say, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
And I was really happy I did, because it's been a while.
Yeah. So, just, inside baseball, this movie was originally going to be a show. Like, they were originally going to plan it as a show. And then I don't know why, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that the reason why they decided to make it a movie is because they felt as a show it was probably a little thin. So they committed to making it a movie. And so that required a rewrite. The show had already gone through a couple rewrites. And then it went through even more rewrites. The Giancarlo Esposito character was added like after filming was done. So,
and it felt like that.
Yeah,
it really did.
And so if you're going to have a problem with the movie, and anybody who has a problem with the movie, I get it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's your problem with the movie. The problem with the movie is that the story feels thin, even as a movie, not even just, I can't imagine how they would have gotten 6 or 8 episodes out of this thing.
Yeah.
And really feels like they just were like, all right, we just need to get, at some point we need to actually make this and put it out, rather than say, this isn't working and what do we do? Like, but as you said, the flip side of that is, well, but if you just kind of meet it at its face value and meet it on its own terms, and not as like part of the universe that gave us Endgame, but rather the universe that has since given us the Black Widow and the Seven Rings and the Eternals and all these other movies.
Right.
It's okay. Oh, this is good. I'm happy I went and saw it. Now, the really interesting thing is that this plot is entirely driven by callbacks to 2 movies that are probably the least liked MCU movies. And it's perplexing.
It is. This movie does a lot to again reconnect back to things that for us who
Yeah.
have followed these movies for so many years probably felt like, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Kind of, that was sort of the sensation,
Yeah.
especially with the character of
The
what was his name?
leader.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because you had to go all the way back
Yeah.
to Edward Norton's home,
Yeah.
right?
Tim Blake Nelson playing the
Thank you.
leader.
Yeah, that guy.
By the way,
Uh,
love that they brought Tim Blake Nelson in.
right.
Really weird that there were so many references to a movie that is mentioned in passing once, maybe twice in the universe. And that's the one time where they were going to New York and Mark Ruffalo's Bruce
Mhm.
Banner says, last time I was in New York, I destroyed Harlem. And that's it. Like
Yeah, that's been the only
that's
callback.
the only callback to that
Yeah.
movie. It's weird. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
say it's weird they felt like that was a thread that needed to be tied off. And it's also equally weird that they felt that what happened in the Eternals at the end of the Eternals was something that they felt like they needed to build the subplot off
It's
of.
a wedged in ability to introduce adamantium. I really feel like that's it.
Sure.
That,
Yeah.
Because I was talking to Nick about this afterwards because he knows the comic world way better than I do, and
Sure.
I said, but wait a minute, adamantium, we know from the X-Men movies, because I don't know comic books, I know the movies. He's like, no, this is pre. All of this that we're watching on film in the Marvel and the MCU is pre, and I didn't know that. Maybe you did. But that's how it felt like to me. It's like, well, okay, we got to use that thing because it's there, right?
Yeah. And I knew about adamantium way more than I knew about vibranium. Like,
true.
let's just call it what it is. Like, because adamantium was completely inaccessible by the MCU. And so like they needed another, it's like, okay, well, we'll use vibranium. And so in spite of the fact that the foundation of this movie is built off of two movies that most people would be like, if you never made reference to them ever again, we're cool. In spite of that fact, it's still like, oh, okay, this is all right, and
right. It still stays thin. I mean, that's the whole key. The thing for me with this film, and I only got to this point mentally, like in hindsight. I was really thinking about, I watched it Saturday. I've thought about it since then. What am I going to say about it tonight? And the thing that I keep coming back to is, with the whole multiverse storyline, Kang just not going forward the way originally it seemed to have been planned, and now we're moving into
for reasons.
Avengers Doomsday, Avengers Secret Wars. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now it made this movie feel like a bridge to tie a few things up and establish a few things for the future to sort of redirect the MCU. And unfortunately, for those who watch this movie with the intent and heart of someone who's followed this series of movies since Iron Man, mostly people like me, it almost feels like they tried too much to make this more than it would have been, with callbacks and then future views. And it's like, we lost the narrative within or, in terms of who Captain America is. And like, listen, it for me, it starts with the title. Brave New World of what? Like, so
and
it just didn't hit with whatever its intent was.
The really interesting thing for me to tie into what you were just saying, where it's like, is it callbacks? Is that I think it's completely appropriate that this movie is the last film of Phase 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, realizing that Phase 4 and Phase 5 began and ended, and nobody could tell you what the point was. Nobody could tell. Now, when we get our Fantastic Four movie, and the idea of multiverse, is necessitated because we know that the Fantastic Four are operating in a different universe, and we know that the X-Men are operating in a different universe. They've already established both of those things. Will they actually try to tie it all together, or is it going to be the type of thing where phase 6 now just is going to be a standalone thing, and phases 4 and 5 just kind of like, I think it's going to be phases 4 and 5 are put into the,
I think so. Well, and that's generally how they feel. I mean, the first 22 films of the MCU, which took us through to Endgame, because I still don't count the Spider-Man movies because I'm still bitter about how bad they are, in my opinion. We're at 35 movies now, and I can't list for you all 13 the way I could.
Right.
The first 22. I mean,
in order.
Yeah, exactly. I never had that much investment.
Yeah.
And yet, whether it's because of this show, and I'm going to give props to my buddy Nick, who's watching.
Yeah.
Because he often would just buy me a ticket and say, "Hey, we're going to go."
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have seen most of the 13 that have now passed, or have now come out to get us to 35 films. So
I just want to show, Nick mentions that it was originally called New World Order, and changed for reasons. Yeah, a lot of what's going on in the MCU right now is going on for reasons. Like, let's just so, but the one thing that, like, in conversations, side conversations or whatever that I've had with people, that I kind of felt really strong about when I was having these conversations was this movie. The problem with the MCU has been that rather than stumbling into a really, really simple concept, which was we have 6 MacGuffins that, when brought together, form a master MacGuffin, and we just can't let the big bad guy get the big MacGuffin.
Right.
What we all knew they were building towards in this one, which is Secret Wars, which, if you're familiar with the history of the Secret Wars, you need 3 things to do Secret Wars. You need 3 things. You need Doom, but you can't do Doom until you have the Fantastic Four, and they didn't have the Fantastic Four until halfway through, planning phase 4. You need the Fantastic Four, which again, you need Doom, and you need Kang, which you brought in. Nobody ever latched onto him, and then you lost Kang, and it's just like, by the way, you also kind of need Spider-Man as well, and you don't even know if you're going to have Spider-Man. You can't even be sure if you're going to have Spider-Man for your Secret Wars movie. So what they were trying to build up to was way, way, way more complex to begin with, without the added complexity of, oh my God, we need to figure out how are we going to introduce the Fantastic Four. Okay, well, that means multiverse, and that's really complex on its own. Oh my God, we need to introduce Kang. Okay, well, we can kind of use Kang as the introduction to the multiverse, even though, some of the things that he's doing they fell into the Infinity Stones, and it was simple and easy, and it's stone 1, stone 2, and it leaves a trail of breadcrumbs that is really easy to follow. There is nothing about the path that they're taking to get to the Infinity Wars that are easy to follow. Or
no, and for someone like me, you've got to make it simple, or I'm going to lose interest. It's just, it really is that simple.
Yeah, and I like when Secret Wars came out, like that was my peak comic book buying and reading. Like I have all of the original Secret Wars, like that. That was like, oh my God, that's what kind of got me into it. And it was a very small window. I wasn't a big, huge comic person for like 10 years, 15 years. It was more like 5 years. And it was entirely because of Secret Wars, because I was like, oh, this is really fucking cool. But so I've wanted Secret Wars, and now I kind of, I'm hoping I don't get buyer's remorse. I think they'll be able to do it, but I think also they're just going to they have to quarantine off what they have been doing and just be like, all right, we're
where are we picking up?
Like, yeah, like
Yeah,
it's okay to be selective. Not everything needs to be, you know, not everything needs to be brought through.
yeah.
And you know, and yeah. So
And listen, I want to point this out because
yeah,
you've gone on this rabbit trail that is important to the conversation. But look how easy it was to get away from the push of discussing this movie,
right.
because of everything you've talked about. Like everybody goes into this film thinking, okay, what is this movie going to bridge to?
Yeah, and it's
And it doesn't, it isn't clear,
no.
and even less clear for someone like myself who
Yeah,
doesn't have the knowledge of these stories like you do. And
right.
so I'm left walking out going, my words to Nick were, this is a good, strong standalone film.
Yeah.
If it's meant to connect to something,
Yeah,
I didn't see it.
it's probably the bridge to nowhere. I don't know that it, but that's been the problem with all of these movies is
Right.
either they don't feel like they really bridge to anything, a la like the Black Widow, or they bridge to things that are people really caring about, a
Yeah.
la the Eternals, where it was like the Eternals was an obvious bridge to Galactus, but it's like, do we like did we need the Eternals to bridge to Galactus? Like my whole thing on phases 4 and 5 will always be, you needed one movie. You needed Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness to introduce the multiverse and just end it there. Like that, you don't need Quantumania. You don't need to over explain it. And by the way, over explaining it is going to be a theme in this podcast because of the next movie we're going to review.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
I
can say that about both. So.
you do not need to over explain things, and they just fell into this trap where it was like, well, we did so much explaining of Infinity Wars, and it's like, no, you didn't. You just, each stone had its own explanation, and that was enough. We didn't need 4 films to explain the multiverse. We needed one, and that would have been Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and people liked it, and everybody would have been fine. And then you could have just been like, hey, here comes the Fantastic Four, and nobody would have batted an eye.
Yeah.
And the Fantastic Four can have Galactus, and nobody would have cared that they didn't, that the Eternals never happened. Like all of these, none of this stuff was necessary. But hey, we got an okay Captain America movie with Mackie, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. So I
enjoyed it.
Yeah, so it's, but I'm just gonna say, look, it's bottom tier Marvel, because of the, it belongs in phases 4 and 5. Like, if this were in phase 3, that would have been a problem. I'm just gonna leave it. That makes sense. Okay. So here at Really Real Talk, we do tacos instead of stars. And if we feel like something deserves a little extra, we add guac to it. Why? Rather than a half a taco. Why? Because nobody eats half a fucking taco. So Sergio, Brave New World, where do you land?
For me, this was a very, very serviceable 3 taco movie.
Yeah.
It was fun. I enjoyed the basic story.
Yep.
The callbacks were okay. I particularly was thinking, did we AI Liv Tyler, or was that really her? I heard it was really her. Yeah. So little moments like that were like not enough to elevate it, because I don't know that I cared that much about the whole movie.
Right.
So that's where I think it falls short, is that it tried to do stuff that just didn't quite reach. But again, as a standalone movie, 3 solid tacos, and that's where I have to land.
You mentioned AI, and it's really funny that it's like they had to AI Washington DC as cherry blossoms, and it's like, again, things we don't need.
Right.
You don't need the cherry blossoms to make everybody realize you're in Washington DC, and nobody cares enough about Thunderbolt Ross's cherry blossom memories with his daughter to really have any emotional
I could have done without
that
whole. I could have done with that, and that without that piece of the story, to be honest.
At all. Like, nobody needed it. I'm also doing 3 tacos. I look, if you want to call me out for being a homer or whatever, and just giving it 3 tacos because it's a Marvel comic book movie, I'll own that and take it. If you want to come at me and say, well, actually Madam Web was better, I'm going to say, fuck you. No, it wasn't. All right.
I can't
Like
even speak to that one.
if you come at me and say, "Oh, Madam Web was better," I'm going to say that you clearly didn't actually watch Madam Web, and you're just saying it's better because of how horrible it was. It was funny, and this movie isn't so horrible that it's funny, and so therefore you enjoyed it less.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't call this one horrible. This was fun.
No, right. So
Yeah, it was definitely
there we
fun.
go. Okay, our next movie, The Gorge.
Wherever you go, I'm gonna. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad
No,
you're ending on
we're
flow.
ending on a
I'm
high
glad
note.
you're ending on flow.
We're ending on a high note. Okay. The Gorge from Apple Plus. All right. So let's set this one up. First, you need to know it basically has two people in it. It's Anna Taylor-Joy and Miles Teller.
Yeah.
Which you tell me they're carrying a movie, and I'm here. By the way, I had no idea this movie was coming out. You sent me a thing saying, "Hey,
this is my fault." Yeah.
You sent me a thing say, "Hey, are you doing The Gorge?" And I was like, well, if it gets you on the show, yes, although I didn't say that. But my thought was, if it gets you on the show, yes. And then I saw it was what it was because I hadn't heard anything about it. I hadn't heard anything about this movie. And then I saw what it was, and I was like, oh, fuck yeah, I'll do this. I love Anya Taylor-Joy, and I love Miles Teller. So I'm in. And the concept here is fantastic. Plus concept.
The trailer drew me in.
I hadn't even seen the trailer. I went in totally blind other than the synopsis on IMDb. So the concept here is that there is a gorge somewhere in the world. That's enough. Where on the east side of the gorge, there is a tower that is manned by somebody from Russia or a former Soviet socialist republic, and on the west side is manned by somebody from the west, it's a NATO person, just one person, one individual manned, and their entire job is to just make sure all of the guns on their side of the gorge are in working order, because they are keeping something, a entity, creature, creatures, whatever, in the gorge. They're just keeping whatever's in the gorge. That's it. Nobody knows about the gorge is a total mystery. There's technology that prevents it from being photographed from satellites by Google, whatever. There are protections on the gorge, so nobody knows it exists. Nobody knows where it is, and there are just two people manning this base, and you have a 1-year contract. And the two people on the contract for the U.S. is Miles Teller, and for the other side, it's Anya Taylor-Joy. Honestly, you could have flipped the roles and nobody would have even noticed.
Right. Yeah. All you needed to know was that she was a sniper.
Yep.
They were some form of assassin, and he was as well.
Yep.
From the military. That's really all you needed to know.
Right.
About their roles.
And really, if they had just made that movie, I would have been so happy. I would have been so happy if that was just the movie. But they actually decided that, nope, that's not the movie we're making. We're making a movie where we have to explain everything.
Right. And the biggest problem with this film is it didn't ever decide what it wanted to be. Is it an action movie? Is it a romance? Is it a mystery? Is it it's like, we're going to put it all into the blender.
Yep.
And what came out was
something that comes out of a blender.
Right. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess.
And you could have just picked two and you would have been okay.
Sure.
And honestly, Sergio, you're saying you found this movie via the trailer?
Yeah. So, I came across the poster.
Okay.
And I thought, what is that? Because it looked like a romance, but then there were these two towers, and I'm like,
well, it is a romance.
Well, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
The image was so striking that I was like, okay, well, what's that? So I watched the trailer. I was like, oh, okay, because all the trailer gives you is the premise you described. Yeah. That's a movie I want to see.
Yep.
They didn't make that movie.
No.
So that's the biggest challenge with this particular film.
So so I finished this movie.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my God. And I swear to God, this is my inner monologue when the movie's over. This was a movie based on a video game that Sergio got into and was going and did on his when you were doing the live streams.
Yeah.
And so like this is a movie based off of a video game. And that's how Sergio found out about it. That's how he brought it to me. And like
Gotcha.
I'm totally gonna get to Sergio to riff on the differences between the game and the movie. And then I just looked it up really quick and I was like, oh shit, that's not the case.
That's not at all. Yeah.
And I literally had somebody mention, like I had somebody mention to me that like the plot expositions that go on in this movie are straight from a video game. It's like,
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
This is how you plot exposition in video games. And so
indeed.
And so it's like, why did somebody not just say, you know what, we need somebody who hasn't played 80 hours of video games this week to do a rewrite of this movie,
Right.
because this movie feels like a video game where it's just like you have to complete this little mini mission and then you can move to the next thing, and you have to complete this little mini mission and then you move on to the next thing. Plot exposition. All right, back to the playing the little bit. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, it had such bad pacing in terms of and the first third of the film where they're getting to know one another.
Really good.
I mean, it's great, but cut it down. I mean, okay, we get the point.
It's the part of the movie that works.
Right.
But it's long.
It leans so hard into the cutesy of it that you forgot that they had just spent about 10 minutes worth of guns firing from all over. It was just really, really jarring how the pacing,
the concept of them being adversaries on opposite towers lasted all but 2 seconds.
Yeah. It was not even a thing.
Yeah, it was. They were just in love with each other, and God bless them. I don't mind that. Like, if that was the worst part about this movie, I'd have been like, "Oh, okay, that's cool."
Yeah.
But instead, they decided they really needed to come up with a complex reason for what these creatures are and how they came to be, and
well, and that's because somebody decided that the rope needed to break.
Yeah, I know. Well,
that's literally it was just such.
But of course the rope needed to break. It's like,
well, no, obviously, but I would have enjoyed the movie where the version of this movie where we don't find out what was in the gorge.
That's the point. Yes, that is the point. And instead, the whole thing becomes why couldn't the movie just be they realized that they were picked by sharing their stories. They realized they were both sent here because word of this can never get out, and the people who come here can never leave. They get to leave, but they can never leave.
Right.
And so make the movie. They figure out how to work together to be able to leave, and that's a
way better movie.
By the way, I'm doing what I hate. So every time I do this, I am going to acknowledge it. That yes. When I review movies, I try to review the movie as much as I possibly can by meeting the movie on its own terms and not suggesting, story change. I try not to do that. I hate doing that. I hate fan theories. Fan theories drive me up the fucking wall. But I am flat out telling you this is a better movie if it's just let's figure out how we get out of this alive.
Right.
And not get out of this alive, meaning we fell into the gorge, but rather our year is up. They're probably going to kill us. How do we not get killed?
We needed to we needed to have them find the body of the guy who was the predecessor, right? Like something like that, because at the end of the day, the gorge would have been far more effective if it had remained a mystery.
Yes.
And then when you finally do get all of the exposition that goes with
so dumb.
Yeah, and it's so many implausibilities from the development of their relationship to I mean, there was absolutely I understand. And listen, I guarantee you, somewhere along the way in the film being written, someone said, "Wait a minute, their companies are gonna know that they're connected with it. Let's create this cloaker system." You can see the layers that were stacked on top of this thing throughout the entire film.
The solution is so simple because the West Tower, they have a a long handed down recipe for
Right.
vodka. They have a long handed down recipe for vodka. Clearly, that's coming from the East Tower. So clearly, people in the past have communicated between the East and the West Tower.
Right.
What the requirement is that the people in each tower need to figure out how are those communications happening, and then they figure out that there's this hidden radio system that two engineers that were there at one point, there's a bazillion and one ways to get them to communicate, none of which requires the audacity that they would actually try to traverse the gorge.
Right.
All right.
When a movie makes me do the following, I'm watching a scene and I'm like, how the fuck did they get a piano? Like, it was just that inane. So much of what happened in this film that I was just ready for it to be over.
And Anna Taylor-Joy, Miles Teller is, in order to communicate, is using a blackboard, or like a dry erase board.
Right.
Perfect. Anya Taylor-Joy is using the largest notepad in the history of notepads.
Why couldn't they both have whiteboards?
Why does she not have she's gonna be out of that notepad. She's gonna use up that notepad
at some point.
Not at some point. Day 2. Because she doesn't shut up.
Right. Oh my God. It was a meet cute that got violent, that got, it was like, what is
I wanted the violence. I wanted blowing things up.
Yeah.
I didn't need so much
of what happened. Yeah.
Nothing that happened in Act 3 did I want or need.
Not at all.
And almost nothing of what happened in Act 2 did I want or need.
Right.
Give me Act 1 as is, maybe tighten it up, and you tighten it up and extend it out. Tighten it up in the sense of, move the actual plot along while you're having these two interact, and have those initial interactions actually happen over like a 4 to 5 month period.
Right.
They're not just going to be buddy after a week,
Right.
And so much.
It was frustrating.
So much. And I can't. We're going to move on. It is on Apple Plus, and we do always recommend people to watch movies. All right. Sergio.
Are you asking me my rating?
Yeah, where are you going on
this? God. Maybe this is unfair, but
okay.
This is. I was so ready for this to be over. It's one taco.
Oh wow, okay.
It was ridiculous. I just, and maybe part of it was I was hoping it was going to be something else, and who knows that's not my fault. But I just there were so many things with this film.
Yeah.
And if I look at it even from a movie production standpoint, I mean it's hard for me to. I think I've only done this once before. It just wasn't a good movie.
Yeah. I'm actually way more generous. I'm giving it 2 tacos, and this is like if I had to tell you, what's your quintessential 2 taco movie. This is my quintessential 2 taco movie. It's a bad movie. I didn't particularly like it, but I love the 2 actors, and both of them are super charming throughout. Especially Anna Taylor-Joy.
Sure,
it's just I will watch anything with Anna Taylor-Joy.
Yeah.
I liked the baddies, the design of the baddies. I really liked, the bad guys, like the creature design, and the action is, okay, this is the action that I want. Now, it would be nice in a coherent story, but that's fine. So that's why I'm being a little more generous. All right.
That makes sense.
Our next movie is an Oscar-nominated movie that Sergio has actually seen, but it's not in Best Picture. This is Flow. It's nominated in 2 categories. It's Best International and Best Animated Features. I just I sent you a message when I saw that it was out on Max on Friday, and I was like, Sergio, please, if you have a moment, please watch Flow ahead of this, because I knew I would want to talk about it. I knew I would want to get your take on it. So
and I had literally just told Jen earlier that day that I wanted to watch that because I saw the trailer. I was like, oh, this is so perfect for Jen and I.
You love talkies, not a single word.
Not a single word, and I was okay with that.
Yeah.
I was okay with that.
Awesome. Because we've done a movie before where there was very little talking in it. You were not okay with it at the time.
No.
But
Yeah. But Paul, I will say, and Jen and I both agreed on this. This was the most beautiful, stress-inducing movie from the jump.
yeah.
I have never been more stressed out by a film,
Oh wow.
much less by an animated film.
I didn't want to do that to you. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, but see, that's the beauty of this film.
Yeah.
Is it makes you feel, and
Yeah.
throw in the fact that I am the animal lover that I am.
I know. Animals in peril. It's
Oh my God. And
Yeah.
listen, I don't know what it says about me that I handle children in peril better than I did animals in peril.
I think I handle children in peril better too, in general. Yeah.
Yeah. This was a stressful film,
Yeah.
but it was gorgeous.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It has 3 scenes that are like, what? But okay. Like,
Right, yeah.
the initial flood scene is like, what? But okay. The ascension scene, we'll just call it that,
Yeah. Okay.
is very much what? But okay. And then the end of the flood scene is 100% what? But okay.
Yeah. And that's that simplicity in terms of how it treats them. It just treats the material that way is, I think, one of its strengths.
Yeah.
Because it's not asking you to understand the whys.
Yeah.
You just have to go with what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's a
you have to go with the
captivating movie. Yeah, exactly. I mean, hence the name, I guess. But yeah, no, this movie, you know, who'd have thought that you could make a film with a capybara, a cat, a dog, and a whatever heron type bird that was, and the lemur,
secretary bird,
and it not have songs and cute dialogue and be funny.
Yeah.
And yet it was, I mean, I totally understand the nomination.
And funny. And
but without it being silly.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I just was so, this was a ride, Paul.
Yeah, I know.
In all the best ways.
Yeah.
So
I am, my 2 favorite movies at this point, and I haven't seen everything, but my 2 favorite movies from 2024 are both animated movies. And I'm just going to say, 2024 was a rough year for me. Not personally, although whatever, but strictly from a movie standpoint,
Gotcha.
I thought it was a really, really, really weak year, 2024.
Okay.
Now, normally,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I have to ask you, like, in just I don't want you to feel like you got a deep dive, but how then are you feeling about the 10 nominees? Like, as a whole, do you feel like it's not a strong year?
Well, okay. So my favorite, there's a difference between favorite and best. You know,
okay, gotcha.
The best movie I saw all year was Nickel Boys. I may never watch Nickel Boys ever again. It is just way, 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 way too difficult.
Gotcha.
But my 2 favorite movies from the year, which are Wild Robot and Flow, I absolutely will watch again. Because they're just they're completely magical. But yeah, I mean, like, the reality is that of the 10 movies nominated this year, I would put one of them in 2023. Like, I would put I would say Nickel Boys would belong in the 2023 Best Picture race. That's it. Like, all of the other ones, if they were nominated in 2023, I'd like, they're being nice. Because it was just a rough year. It was just a rough year for Best Picture worthy movies. But if Flow had been nominated for Best Picture, I would have been like, oh, come on, let's I would have been let's do that. And it should have been. It's just an absolutely beautiful story. Look, it's Latvian, is the guy who made it used public domain animation that's available wherever books are sold. No, but like, seriously, like literally, like, he just used like free software that he could find. It wasn't like he has a company that developed this, so the animation is like nice. It's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but it's, you know, like the animation is not going to blow you away, but the story absolutely will. I mean,
Yeah,
because you know, the depth of the world that he builds is beautiful. I I
it's
freaking loved this movie, man.
yeah, it's hard to talk about the movie in any great detail because it
Yeah,
is so simplistic in
there's
terms of its story,
yeah,
in terms of its presentation.
yep,
Like you, the animation is not the best I've ever seen, but that's
right.
not even it
It's
doesn't
not the
even
point.
register
Yeah,
as a thought because
negative or anything.
the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
story is so captivating.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
you're left with this like sense of wonder.
yeah,
Um the silence that was in my living room when the credits started, as Jen and I like were still processing, and
yeah,
I swear to you, I kid you not, we looked at each other and we both said that was stressful.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, but that's the beauty of this film. Is it really? And I hate to sound cliche, but I don't know how else to say it. It makes you feel, and
Yeah.
it doesn't let you go. It
And yeah, and
fantastic.
the ending shot of the movie is just perfect.
Yeah.
It's like you want to, you know, movies. This is how you end. You know, all other movies. Go watch Flow and realize this is how you tie it together. This is
Yeah.
this is how you
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. We've already covered what I'm just going to go ahead and put this both up for both of us.
Yeah, that's
We're
literally what
five
I was gonna
tacos
say.
plus guac. I'm not even going to let you do
Yeah.
anything else. That's where we
No,
are.
I agree.
All right.
100%.
I'm doing one more movie. You're going to hang around for 1 second because I'm going
Sure.
to literally do 2 seconds on this. Because I want to ask you what the movie I'm doing, by the way, is on Hulu. It's called Sly Lives, aka The Burden of Black Genius.
Okay.
What is your awareness of Sly and the Family Stone?
I mean, I'm familiar with the music.
Okay.
I mean, I can't tell you, like, I can't name songs off the top of my head, but
Okay.
if it plays and I would recognize, okay, that's Sly and the Family Stone.
Sure.
But it's certainly not a blind spot.
Okay.
But when I heard you were going to talk about this, I was like, oh, that needs to go on my list of things to
Yeah.
watch.
So this comes to us from Questlove.
Yeah, and that was the other reason.
Yeah, and so Questlove, let's when did he do his other thing? He did Summer of Soul, which is a movie that
Yes.
we actually covered together.
Absolutely.
And it won Best Picture in 2021. The 2020 awards are in 2022. And we both raved about Summer of Soul. Summer of Soul was in my top 10 for the year.
Yeah.
And
didn't he also produce the Yacht Rock one?
Was he a producer on Yacht Rock? He might have been.
Yeah, I think he was.
He
was at least in it. I mean, that's for sure.
He would no, yeah, he appeared in it. I don't
Yeah.
know. He was not a producer of Yacht Rock, but he showed up in that documentary, contributing. Sly and the Family Stone were, if you talk to Paul circa 1988 through 1992, Sly and the Family Stone is one of my top 5 bands. And it's not even close. It's number 1 is the Beatles. Led Zeppelin is up there. I think Sly is probably Simon and Garfunkel, and then probably Sly. Like that. That's Sly and the Family Stone. I just absolutely love Sly and the Family Stone. And let's go back. This is pre-internet days, so I knew nothing about Sly and the Family Stone other than they made music in the 70s and they stopped. That's it. Like, the Beatles, it was like, oh, okay. Well, they stopped, and the reason why was really well known.
Right.
And Sly and the Family Stone, it's like, this music is so fucking good. I wonder why they stopped, but there was no easy outlet to go figure out why did they stop. And then you talk to people and you figure out, you piece it together, and you find out. This movie is this is how you do biopics. You don't do biopics, you do documentaries that are compelling and interesting. And I knew a lot of what was going into this movie, but it layers everything perfectly. If you have any connection to Sly and the Family Stone out there, I could not recommend this enough.
Nice.
It's another wonderful presentation for Questlove. I don't think it has the strength of Summer of Soul. I'm giving this one 4 tacos, but they're
Nice.
4 really good tacos. At the end of the day, there's absolutely no way to tell this story and have it end anywhere but really super sad. Whereas Summer of Soul just kind of, is uplifting while
Very
being
uplifting, yeah.
sad. Like there's nothing uplifting about Act 3 of the Sly and the Family Stone story, So, but
yeah, I'll have to check it out for sure.
Please do, on Hulu, everybody. Sergio,
Nice.
Amazing having you on board, my guy.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that.
Do you have any idea of coming weeks where you are going to be like, hey, I've seen a movie?
Yeah, there's quite a few coming out pretty soon. Let me have a list. Thunderbolts for sure.
Yeah, that's in
that
May.
looks fun.
Yeah.
But there's oh gosh, let me see. What am I wanting to? I wish I'd had this written
so you're looking at like.
Are you interested in the new Jurassic World? I saw the trailer and I'm like,
I mean,
I don't
and
know.
only in so much as that it's got what's her face in it. So yeah, but
yeah, that's right. Scarlett Johansson.
Johansson. Yeah, it's so obviously. So basically, you're saying there's nothing on your radar until summer hits.
Well, I won't necessarily. You know what? Give me 3 seconds, and I'll give you a better answer.
Okay.
Because I saw some trailers this weekend that I was like, oh, okay.
Mickey 17. The one that I want to look. I was hoping you would say Mickey 17.
I have not seen.
This is Bong Joon-ho, the guy who made Parasite. This is his follow-up to Parasite. It's starring Robert Pattinson.
March 7th.
I'm just imploring that you come out, go out and go watch Mickey 17. And
I will
join me for that one. That's
okay.
What I
I'm sure there's others. But I'll get you a list because I saw some trailers and I thought I need to get a list together for Paul to say, hey, here are some things I'd like to be included in. So yeah, we'll be seeing each other this year.
Sweet. This is interesting. I want to throw up from Blair. This is from Sly Lives. Everybody is a star is practically Sergio, considering his catchphrase. That's actually true.
I love
and
that.
On that note, go ahead, Sergio. Give us your catchphrase.
Well, as always, Paul, thank you. And we do such great things together, and I love it. But I think we both agree that we need everyone to know that they're awesome, they're amazing, and the world's a better place because you are in it.
100%. Thank you. And everybody, go out and see movies. All right.
Absolutely.
We'll see you.